I'm Liao for TaiwanPlus, here at Songshan Airport in the capital Taipei, as Taiwan fully reopens to tourists after more than 2 years of strict border controls.
Infectious diseases are making a comeback, and the country's youngest are especially at risk. The U.S. Vice President lashes out at China for its behavior in the Taiwan Strait, while President Biden woos Pacific Island leaders in Washington at a 2-day summit designed to counter Beijing's growing influence in the region. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. Taiwan officials have confirmed that the country will drop its quarantine requirement for people arriving in the country from October 13th. It comes as authorities raised the cap on visitors and allowed citizens from more countries to enter Taiwan visa-free. Liao reports.
It's the first day of Taiwan fully reopening to tourists after more than 2 years of strict border controls. Here at Songshan Airport, the largest in the capital, entry rules are beginning to return to normal. Tourists from more than 60 countries will now be able to enter Taiwan without a visa. Taiwan is raising the cap on how many people can enter the country and also dropping PCR tests on arrival, though people will still need to quarantine for 3 days. With its proximity to China, where COVID-19 originated in 2019, Taiwan was one of the first countries in the world to start restricting entry. Pursuing a COVID-0 policy, the island country has been closed off to tourists throughout much of the pandemic. Residents entering Taiwan have had to undergo testing and quarantine. It is now one of the last countries in the world to open up, bringing relief to the tourism industry, but also trepidation from citizens as Taiwan shifts to living with the virus. Authorities say they will be monitoring this latest stage in relaxing COVID measures, but they plan to further raise the cap on arrivals and drop all entry requirements, including quarantine, by the middle of October. Andy Xue and Liao at Songshan Airport for TaiwanPlus.
The relaxation of COVID rules has led to a surge in other diseases across Taiwan. Over the past 2 years, social distancing restrictions had kept many common children's illnesses at bay. As John Van Trieste reports, young ones are especially at risk, and experts warn the situation will get even worse once Taiwan reopens its borders.
At emergency rooms across Taiwan, beds for children are running out. With COVID rules easing, other diseases that had been kept in check are making a sudden comeback. And doctors say children are especially vulnerable. One of the main concerns is a virus called RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus. Normally, most children have been infected by the age of 2. But for the past 2 years, measures like social distancing and mask wearing have shielded many from the virus, meaning they have no immunity.
呼吸道融合病毒主要是针对这个婴儿婴儿的话，它会产生一个细支气管炎就是会剧烈的咳嗽，然后会有胸凹、很喘这样子那另外一个族群就是老人，老人这个呼吸道融合病毒也是引发这些咳嗽、气促的一个情况。
Other respiratory illnesses and stomach bugs are also on the rise. And if the winter flu season in the southern hemisphere is any indication, flu will also make a big return once temperatures drop. Doctors warn the situation in Taiwan will get worse.
当我们国境开放，或者说我们个人防护有比较松懈的时候，再加上这些病毒事实上他们有做一些反扑的动作的时候，我们的小朋友的急诊来诊量就会看到比较明显增加。
To minimize the spread of disease, health experts say people should continue wearing masks and keep up to date on vaccines, including COVID and flu shots. Patrick Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan health officials are making the second-generation Moderna COVID-19 vaccine available to more people. Starting Monday, frontline medical and transportation workers will be eligible for the jab. Adults over the age of 50 and people who travel overseas for work will also be able to get it. The newer vaccines were originally earmarked for groups considered most at risk from COVID. Taiwan will also start offering its annual government-sponsored flu shots from Saturday. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has touched down in South Korea on the second stop of her Asian tour. Her arrival comes just hours after North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles off its east coast late on Wednesday. But as James Chater reports, comments she made earlier in the tour about Taiwan are also flaring tensions in the region.
The United States and South Korea reinforcing their alliance with the visit of US Vice President Kamala Harris to Seoul, here meeting with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol.
For 7 decades, the alliance between the United States and the Republic of Korea has been a linchpin of security and prosperity on the Korean Peninsula and in the Indo-Pacific and throughout the globe.
Harris arrives on the second leg of her trip to Asia as relationships across the region are tested. Hours before Harris landed, North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles off its east coast, a move condemned by the White House and Japan's defense ministry.
また、ウクライナへの侵略が発生している中で、立て続けにミサイルを発射していることは許されません。関連する安保理決議に違反するものであり、強く非難いたします。北朝鮮に対しては、北京の大使館ルートを通じて抗議を行いました。
In Japan, Harris attended the state funeral of assassinated former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, the initial purpose of her trip to the region. But her tour is being conducted as rivalry between the US and China intensifies. While in Tokyo, she met with the Prime Minister of Australia, a fellow member of the Quad Regional Security Pact, formed under the shadow of rising US-China competition. And in meetings with Japanese semiconductor business chiefs, she warned of supply chain overdependence on Beijing. But it was in comments about Taiwan, which Beijing claims as part of its territory, that Harris's view on China was clearest.
China has flexed its military and economic might to coerce and intimidate its neighbors. And we have witnessed disturbing behavior in the East China Sea and in the South China Sea. And most recently, provocations across the Taiwan Strait.
In response, Beijing said when it came to policy on Taiwan, the US had double standards.
美方连自己做出的承诺都不遵守，还有什么资格谈论规则和秩序？恐怕只能成为国际规则的破坏者。
At Abe's funeral, a momentary pause from the pointed rhetoric. But with China hitting back at Harris's comments on Taiwan and North Korea firing more ballistic missiles, the US Vice President's trip appears to be laying bare the volatility simmering beneath the surface of East Asia. Klein Wang and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S. is hosting Pacific Island leaders at a 2-day summit in Washington, its latest move to counter the growing influence of China in the region. 4 out of Taiwan's 14 diplomatic allies are South Pacific countries. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick reports.
Leaders from a dozen Pacific Island nations are in the White House for a first-of-its-kind summit, bringing heads of government from across the ocean together with their counterparts in Washington.
This summit reflects our deep and enduring partnership with the Pacific Islands, one that's underpinned by shared history, values, and enduring people-to-people ties. Together, we'll discuss the challenges that we face, exchange ideas and perspectives, and chart a way forward to deliver on the issues that matter most to our people.
U.S. engagement with the region has been developing at what has been called warp speed since last spring. That was when China and the Solomon Islands inked a new security pact, paving the way for a possible Chinese military presence in the South Pacific. It was a rude awakening for the United States. And as Beijing further advances its relations with South Pacific countries, Washington is stepping up its charm offensive.
What I hope that you take away from these engagements is that the United States shares your vision, and we're committed to help realize it. It's a vision that recognizes that only by working together can we actually tackle the biggest challenges of our time that confront all of our citizens, from combating the climate crisis and health emergencies, to promoting economic opportunity, to preserving a free and open Indo-Pacific where every nation, no matter how big, no matter how small, has the right to choose its own path.
The assembled leaders are due to meet DC's most powerful figures, including climate envoy John Kerry, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. U.S. President Joe Biden will address them on the summit's second day. This renewed esteem from Washington has been welcomed by some in the region.
The Pacific Islands Forum family welcomes this opportunity to set the USA towards becoming the true Pacific power it can become. We saw this when both President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris addressed the forum leaders. We see it today.
This is the first time the United States has hosted so many leaders of a region it has considered its maritime backyard since World War II.
This upcoming week will be the most significant engagement between the Pacific Island Forum and the United States in a generation. The fact that the Pacific leaders will be sharing a room with the US President and the entire machinery of the US government tells us how far we have come.
But a united front may prove elusive. The Solomon Islands Beijing-friendly administration, which switched allegiances from Taiwan to China in 2019, has signaled it is unlikely to sign a joint statement with the US. Others remain dissatisfied with US financial assistance to the Pacific. The summit is unlikely to close the book on the differences across this vast region. But as competition heats up, it could be the start of a new chapter. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has made public military drills using domestically made Albatross drones. This model of unmanned aerial vehicle has been in service since 2017 and is produced by the country's top weapons maker, the National Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technology. Taiwan has been trying to enhance its drone capabilities and recently signed a deal with the United States to purchase 4 attack drones. The military says it plans to use drones to monitor Chinese activity around its territory. Taiwan has seen an increase in military exercises from Beijing since a visit from U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in early August.
8月份的中共的一些军演，我们也依例在特定的海域执行我们的任务。台海周边一些重要的海域，我们几乎每天都会备遍我们的装备，在做起飞跟降落，到指定海域做目标的征收。
An award-winning artist has been charged over allegations of sexual assault. Sakuliu Pavavayong is the indigenous Paiwan people, won the National Award for Arts in 2018. Last year, 2 women alleged that he had sexually assaulted them in incidents dating back to 2002. After investigating, prosecutors in southern Taiwan's Pingtung have charged him with obstructing sexual autonomy. Sakuliu Pavavayong maintains he is innocent of the charges. Coming up here on TaiwanPlus, on a mission to rid the country of some very unwelcome plants. We'll explain after the break.
我们真的很久没有表演，
走到了一个必须要停下来的状态。因为我又不会看谱，
就不知道哪来的韵，有些人喜欢。
想想我最擅长的事情好像是玩团。
其实我的歌很多都是在解决我自己遇到的问题。
我通常会发脾气或者是暴怒，是因为不公平。
发现我对舞台是不熟悉的。
诚实的讲述你自己，就会有人听。
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus. For more great stories from here in Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Hundreds of homes were destroyed in a magnitude 6.8 earthquake that hit Taiwan's southeast earlier this month. Residents say they are facing an uncertain future and that they need more government help to rebuild their homes. Louise Watt reports.
Nearly 2 weeks after a 6.8 quake struck southeastern Taiwan, many places in Taidong County are still in need of repair. The family who run and live in this restaurant, too scared to be inside, are now spending their time in a tent outside. They hope the government will help them.
The
earthquake struck on September the 18th, killing 1 person and injuring more than 100. It also derailed train carriages, and caused a convenience store to collapse. In Taidong, 15 of the more than 220 damaged homes have been designated uninhabitable, but non-qualify for subsidies from the central government. According to Taiwan's laws, it's up to the county government to provide relief.
我们提供安迁救助，那每一户一口是2万元，那最多这个以10万元为上限哈。
In neighbouring Hualien County, the quake damaged 370 homes and made 76 of these uninhabitable. Taiwan's Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation and semiconductor giant TSMC have stepped in to help pay for renovation and reconstruction.
那我们是希望能够帮助这个县民能够有一个平安的家，还有一个平安的心。受创比较重的红单跟次重的黄单，到目前为止总共是76户，实际会全部来做修缮或重建。
Hualien County's government says it will cover the costs of demolishing buildings and do everything it can to help families move back into homes as soon as possible. For now, those promises of help are cold comfort to the residents left picking up the pieces. Karma Xu and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Parts of Vietnam are underwater after Tropical Storm Noru made landfall near the coastal city of Da Nang on Wednesday. Hundreds of thousands of people were evacuated before the storm hit, and airports were shut down, schools were closed, events canceled, and curfews imposed. No injuries have been reported yet. Noru was the strongest storm to hit neighboring Philippines this year. It killed 8 people when it passed through a few days ago. One of the strongest storms in U.S. history has hit the state of Florida, leaving more than 2 million people without power. Hurricane Ian made landfall on Wednesday afternoon, bringing storm surges that have left parts of the state under as much as 2.5 meters of water. 2.5 million people were told to evacuate before Ian arrived. At least 26 other states are sending aid to Florida. The storm has weakened, but governors of several neighboring states have declared a state of emergency as it continues inland. Planned experts are looking at the risk several invasive species pose to Taiwan. As John Van Trieste reports, it's part of efforts to root out non-native plants that can damage local ecology and lead to economic losses.
Taiwan is fighting back against the spread of invasive plants. One of the biggest perpetrators is the salt marsh cordgrass, a coastal plant native to North America that's swallowing up beaches.
那护花迷草呢？它就是会整个堵塞那个海岸线，然后会对我们的红树林海岸造成它生态上面的冲击。
The plant, which grows quickly, dries out salt marshes along the coast and turns beaches into solid land. There are many other unwelcome species that have been targeted for elimination. Last year, the government ordered a bed and breakfast owner to destroy a field of pink mully grass, another native of the Americas, that they'd planted to attract tourists. And also wreaking havoc, the vine Micania micrantha. A common English name for the plant, mile-a-minute weed, shows just how fast it spreads. No one's sure when it was introduced, but with its ability to kill trees, the plant, also known as the bitter vine, has damaged Taiwan's forests.
分被吸走之后就会死亡，就是会有这个头号绿癌的名称那样子。
Experts at Taiwan's Council of Agriculture say not all invasive species are equally dangerous, and priority should be given to plants that spread easily, cause ecological or economic damage, and are hard to eradicate. They are also calling on Taiwan's customs agents to step up efforts to keep these species out, hoping that a collective effort and awareness will stem a growing problem for Taiwan's environment. Alex Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Life in the big city isn't for everyone. P7 Pan tried working in Taipei, but it didn't quite suit her. So she went back to the countryside before finding that she had a nose for the perfume business. Here's her story.
30岁之前，我很茫然，从花莲到台北做了很多工作，常常因为个性太内向，丢了工作。 在台北工作不太顺利，非常想念大自然，所以就回花莲帮姑姑的咖啡厅工作。爸爸有一个朋友刚好到我姑姑那边去玩，然后就跟我姑姑还有我爸爸说：“这个囡仔袂使伫整卡拉拉手啊，懵懵标标啊，唔知在创啥。”于是他就跟我爸建议说，他可以介绍一份工作，然后他就把我带上台北。林阿伯推荐我到圆山饭店，他是希望我跟在会长旁边当他的助理。我自己算是乡下的野小孩啦，受不了一直静止。会长还请了老师特地来教我茶道。林阿伯他每天都会给我一本书，会画重点，写一些评语啊，告诉我一些人生的道理。突然间觉得我人好像整个静下来了，不像以前那么就是浮动。一天可能看2、3本书，我发现我好像蛮喜欢那个沉静的感觉。发现原来我对嗅觉比较敏锐，就是我在开始学习茶道的时候。很好玩的是，它明明就是一种东西，那为什么在不同的过程、不同的媒介，它所散发的气味就那么不一样？其实台湾的能量很强，台湾应该有精品的品牌，我就想说，那我就试试看做这件事情。一开始创业的时候，其实就是一股傻劲啦。想说，那我就先买原料，殊不知我的100万积蓄就全部花在原料上面。那时候花很多时间在找玻璃厂，大部分都是用拜托的，因为我那时候真的没有太多的资金。刚创业的时候啊，我常常被工厂的老板骂，被师傅骂，被合作伙伴调香师骂。一开始什么都不懂，做什么事都会很天马行空。我们的团队里面就很多调香师，他们都会在一个规范里面。我常常就是会打破这个规范。其实我心里就是有我自己想要的味道。气味对我来说就是一种想象，它可以让我有一个画面。像茶香水的画面是我走进了一个烟雾弥漫、空气很冷的一个森林里面，走着走着，然后我看到一间小木屋，在小木屋里面我泡了一杯茶喝，喝完了茶以后，我就是静下来，开始写了毛笔字。你光闻到气味，你就会很了解说，我们想要诉说什么。其实我自己本身不太会表达，然后也不善于用言语跟这个世界沟通。但是对于大自然，我特别有感受。大自然对我来说就有点像妈妈，它会让你跌跌撞撞，但是你只要有困难，它就是会给你能量，它就是会帮助你。我如果人生中遇到困难，我可能就会对着天上的星星说话，或是对着树木说话，仿佛他们就会告诉我答案。遇到问题，我不一定会去找人问，我反而是在大自然里面找到我要的答案。香道、茶道跟花道，它们其实就是一种精神的象征。那我想要透过香道来表现出台湾的文化。
U.S. company Aviation has flown an electric-powered aircraft for the first time. The aircraft, named Alice, flew for 8 minutes in the skies above the state of Washington, reaching a top speed of 273 kilometers an hour. The company says that the aircraft produces 0 carbon emissions and is much quieter than traditional jetliners. Aviation's CEO says the plan is to start flying shorter routes first.
The market that we're looking at penetrating first is that, shall we say, 250 nautical mile or less market. So we're looking at developing an airplane that will fly, 1 to 2 hours, which is typical for that segment. So, 150 to 250 nautical miles with reserve, and that's what we're targeting for our initial entry into service.
Taiwan's flagship carrier, China Airlines, has unveiled its latest theme plane covered with Pokemon livery. The aircraft is decked out with images of the popular Japanese cartoon characters both outside and inside. Starting Sunday, the specially decorated plane will make daily trips between Taipei's Songshan Airport and Tokyo's Haneda. China Airlines says tickets are already pretty much booked solid for November and December. Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. Finally, we leave you with images of glaciers in the Alps in Switzerland. Unfortunately, data shows that it has recorded the worst melt rate in a century. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.